Alright, welcome to gonna start a new show up today. Just thought of the title right as we speak, because why prepare? That would make things good. Those of you who may not know, or may not care, the NHL just recently ended their lockout. I am a raging hockey fan, so I've decided, why not let me do my own little season preview. And I'm gonna break down each division, and after that, where I think everything's gonna go from there. But yeah, this is Hucks on Pucks. It's clever because it rhymes. And we're gonna start with the Southwest. Now, gonna start from the bottom and go all the way to the top. Number 5. Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be the Dallas Stars. Really not understanding what this team is doing. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs for 4 seasons. So what do? They add a couple of 40-year-old forwards to try to bolster the offense. I like Ray Whitney. From his days at the Rangers, I love Jaromir Jagr. I'm very happy he's back in the league. Even if he was with the Flyers last year, I love the guy. I really do. But these are the kind of moves you make when you're like a top 6 forward away from contending. Dallas haven't made the playoffs in 4 years. Have issues in goal because Kari Lehtinen is a solid goaltender when he's healthy. And unfortunately, his groin has a tendency to veto him playing games. Now, he's definitely a talented player, but he's been hurt his whole career. You can't assume he's going to be able to play the bulk of the 48-game schedule. I know they've got a rookie named Richard Bachman behind him, who I don't believe has seen an NHL puck yet, so yeah, I can't really comment one way or the other on him, because I've never seen the guy play. Like I said, I don't believe he's even played in the NHL. So you've got a creaky goaltender and an untested rookie. There's a red flag right there. Now, defensively, the Stars were actually pretty solid last year. They did lose Sheldon Sore in the offseason, which on the one hand, it's going to hurt their power play because he's always been very good on the power play, but he's terrible at even strength because he skates like an overloaded mule with bad knees. So really, on the power play, that defense is looking a little shaky. I mean, they've got Stefan Robidas and Alex Goligoski, who can put up a few points. But the rest, it's all pretty much stay-at-home kind of guys. They're an okay defense. I don't think they're great, but they'll get the job done defensively. Offensively, they're really not going to contribute all that much. And like I said, up front, they traded Mike Ribeiro to Washington, one of their better offensive forwards. They replaced him with Derek Roy from the Sabres. Then they gave up Steve Ott in the process. Which means next year which means about a week or so when the Rangers play Buffalo, I'm going to be screaming for someone to kill that fucking guy because Steve Ott is truly one of the most obnoxious pieces of garbage in the NHL. He's definitely got some talent, but he's a cheap shot artist, and he loves to get things going and then run like hell. Yeah, one of those guys. severely in need of just being annihilated by someone. So they broke even there. And like I said, they had Michael Ryder and Jamie Benn, who were already, and Louis Erickson, already a pretty solid top six. And they added Ray Whitney from Phoenix and Jaromir Jagr from the Flyers. Both these guys are in their 40s. I'm not saying they can't contribute. Obviously they can. But they're also at that age where, hey, the wheels could just fall off at any moment. When that happens, they spent a lot of money to get not much in return. And Jagr did have a good season with the Flyers last year. But, well, let's face it, he was playing with Claude Giroux. And up and down, that Flyers team was loaded with firepower. You know, you couldn't concentrate on Jagr. You had to deal with Giroux. You had to deal with the second line with Briere and all of them. There's a lot of firepower. He's not going to be nearly as sheltered in that regard here. I mean, Ray Whitney, Derek Roy, Louis Erickson, they're good players. They don't cause nightmares for coaches like Claude Giroux can. So I really don't see them being all that great. Another thing, they had a lot of trouble in the power play last year. Jagr may or may not help that, obviously. When he was with the Rangers, his first season, they had a fantastic power play, largely due to him. But there are times where he's going to have the puck along the half boards and everything's going to get so predictable and bogged down that nothing is going to happen. And honestly, when they didn't have a great power play to begin with, I kind of feel that's how this is going to go all over again. Anyway, yeah, I've got Dallas coming in last. Coming in fourth, I'm going to go with last year's Southwest Division champions, the Phoenix Coyotes. They don't have any firepower. Seriously, this team cannot score goals at all. I mean, in goal, they've got Mike Smith, who was great last year. He was fantastic for them. But was that a fluke? Or was that just the combined... Or did he finally break through with the combination of help of Dave Tippett and goalie coach Sean Burke? Who, seriously, those two have got some coaching magic going on. That's the one reason I'm loath to pick this team very low. It's because they are a very smart, very well-coached team. I know he's only won 2 playoff series down there, but seriously, if you look at the rosters Dave Tippett's had to work with, guys, really, he's making gold out of shit. Really, he's not had great talent to work with. But they lost their top scorer, Ray Whitney. They replaced him with Steve Sullivan, who missed most of 2 seasons before coming back with Pittsburgh last year, where he had an okay season. He was playing lower line minutes, mostly. Then again, he's been mostly a center his whole life. And last year, Pittsburgh, especially when Crosby was healthy, they're stacked at center. I know he's also played plenty of left wing, but he's an older guy. He's had injury issues. I don't think he's going to be able to replace Ray Whitney. They did bring back Captain Shane Doan. Shane Doan's been a good player the past few years. He hasn't been great, though. You know, he's been about in the 20s goal-wise. Now he's another year older. Now he's already 36. Just really not wild about this team's offense. That's their biggest problem is, especially down the middle, they're very weak at center. You know, Martin Hansel, solid player. Antoine Vermette, let's put it this way, he's probably going to be their second line center, and he's not a second line center. He's a good third line center. But up front, they're just... Phoenix is really going to struggle to score at all. I mean, honestly, their best offensive player is probably Keith Yandle, who's a defenseman. Now, you're kind of in trouble when your best offensive player is a defenseman. You know, unless he's Paul Coffey, you're in trouble. And defense is pretty solid. And in fact, I'd say they got even better when they reacquired Zbigniew Michalek from Pittsburgh to shore up the defense. And that's really how Phoenix are going to have to try to win games, is to just really grind it out and try to win a lot of 2-1 games. Now, I don't know how many Coyote fans are out there watching this, but yeah, your team is not going to be fun to watch. There's going to be a lot of ugly hockey played in the desert, because that's the only way this team is really going to be able to win. Now, maybe in a short season with no camp, that is the best way to play it. But I don't know. I just feel like they simply don't have the firepower. So yeah. Fourth, I got Phoenix. Third, I got the Ducks. They have the opposite problem of Phoenix. Defensively, they're shaky. However, if Jonas Hiller is over his vertigo issues, he's proven he's an all-star caliber goaltender. No, I'm not sure he's a guy you can ride all the way to the cup. But under the right circumstances, if you get into a shootout and you've got him as your last line of defense, it's not the worst place to be. Defense is shaky to begin with. I mean, the top pairing of Cam Fowler and Francois Beauchemin should be alright. I mean, Fowler's young. He's very talented. He still has trouble on his own end, but he's in his early 20s. He's going to get better. I wouldn't worry so much about him. Although now that I think about it, when it comes to that's right. Ducks also just recently got a new assistant coach, Scott Niedermayer. Yeah, there's a guy who could probably show Cam Fowler a thing or two. Again, I don't know how great a coach he'll be, but Scott Niedermayer, a surefire Hall of Famer. You know Fowler's going to listen to him. Especially, I believe Niedermayer was still playing during his rookie year. So I believe they have played together. Not 100% sure. However, beyond those two, it's... Well, I mean, former Sabre Tony Ludman has proven he can be pretty solid back there. Not great, but he's good. Biggest problem is going to be they added Sheldon Surrey from the Stars. He's going to be a lot of help on the power play, that's for sure. You know, he knows what to do, and he's got an absolute cannon of a shot. He's great on the power play. But, I mean, you can't use him to kill penalties at all. And even strength, probably not going to use him that much. He's strictly a power play specialist at this point because he wasn't a great skater in his prime, and his prime is long gone. He's very immobile. So, you know, Bruce Boudreau's probably not going to use him too much other than the power play if he can help it. Now we get to the offense. Oh, dear Lord. This team is scary up front. I mean, you've got that top line of doom with Getzlaf, Perry, and Ryan. Definitely one of the scariest top lines in the NHL. You know, these are three guys, and when they're on, they will score like mad. Especially with a guy like Bruce Boudreau behind the bench. It's a lot of bees. You know, Boudreau knows this team's strength is offense. He is an offensive guy. So, you know this team's going to try to win a lot of 5-4 games. And even with no training camp and a lockout shortened season, I still kind of like this idea. It may be badly suited to the shorter season, but I do think the Ducks are in much better shape than Dallas. That's why I've got them third. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. But if they do, it wouldn't surprise me. But like I said, it's going to come down to Hiller's health and that top line doing what they do best. If they do make the playoffs, I don't think they're a contender to go all the way. But especially in a truncated season, anything can happen. I've got them third. Okay, second, I got the San Jose Sharks. Again. And surprisingly, for once, they're pretty much bringing back the same team that they had from last year. Now, usually every offseason it seems like there's some new addition. Now, Tom McClellan gets a new toy to play with almost every year. This is the first time they didn't really do that. Their biggest addition was they got Brad Stewart to play on defense. And he's a solid guy to have back there. He's probably going to be a second pair. No, he's a solid veteran. He's not going to push you over the top. But if you have a choice of having Brad Stewart or not having Brad Stewart, you'll take Brad Stewart. In goal, it's funny. It's like 5 years ago, San Jose was the goaltending capital of the NHL. You know, everyone was just marveling at the fact that, wow, they've got 3 NHL caliber starting goaltenders. Now, Well, okay, we found out Vesa Toskala really wasn't an NHL caliber goaltender. Oh boy, did Ontario find that one out the hard way. Oof. Traded Mickey Kaprasov to the Flames. Wrote Evgeny Nabokov as far as they could. Now they got former Blackhawk Antti Niemi and Thomas Greiss in goal. I don't think they're terrible. I know Niemi's got a cup to his name, but honestly, if you've got one game to win, you're looking around the league, you can choose any goalie. Who's picking Niemi? No one. Well, I mean, okay, right now everyone's picking either Lundqvist or Quick, but no one's picking Niemi. I mean, I think they'll be okay. They're not incompetent in that. You know, this isn't a Flyers situation where it's just a train wreck back there. But they're very ho-hum. You know, if you're supposed to win the game, you'll probably win. If you're supposed to lose, you'll probably lose. They're not really gonna... They're gonna do their job, but they're not really gonna affect the game. The defense? Well, the defense is pretty solid, actually. For the most part, it's on the young side. I mean, Dan Boyle's got some miles on him for sure. But him and Brent Burns are definitely a good 1-2 punch on the blue line. Like I said, Brad Stewart, very nice addition. Mark-Edward Vlasic's shown himself to be pretty competent in both ends of the ice. And, you know, you got Douglas Murray on your third pair. Douglas Murray's a good defenseman. One of the better hitters in the league, too. He's a scary guy as far as a lot of opposing forwards are concerned. He's not a guy you want to get his bad side you want to be on. Yeah, up front, they're returning largely the same crew. I mean, Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton, they're another year older. Martin Havlat. They've also got Martin Havlat, who could legally change his last name to if he's healthy, because he's generally not. You know, he's had a lot of injury issues through his career. However, they do have Ryan Clough, Joe Pavelski, and Logan Couture on that top six. Pavelski is a little up in... He had that fantastic playoff a couple of years ago, which probably caused people to overvalue him a little bit. I mean, he's a good player, definitely, but you know, he had that one playoff where he just went berserk. And I think a lot of people think that was the real Joe. The real Joe Pavelski is just not on that level, but he's still a very good player. Couture is the future of the team. You know, sorry, Doug Murray's pretty much coming out and said, "Yeah, no, don't ask me about Logan Couture. I'm not trading him for anything." Or, you know, short of the Flyers calling him saying, "You want Claude Giroux?" Because seriously, if Paul Holmgren calls you and offers you Claude Giroux, you take that call. Call the Rangers. You know you want to do it. Sorry, Claude Giroux fan, even though he's a fucking Flyer. Fuck them. Yeah, I don't care if you're a Flyer fan and you're watching this. Fuck filthy. Anyway, San Jose, lower lines, nothing great to speak of. I mean, you know, best player in your bottom six is Michael Handzus, who's a decent player, but his best days are long gone. So, San Jose are an alright team, but they have an older core. I think the window of cup contention is probably closed on them. Might want to start thinking about a rebuild. That said, I do think they're talented enough to make the playoffs. I don't think they'll go deep into the playoffs, though. I don't think they're that great a team. Like I said, they're okay. They're an older team. I mean, honestly, the most interesting thing would be if San Jose fell apart. They've got a lot of players who contenders would look at and go, the NHL, everyone, they'd definitely be kicking the tires on, like, Thornton, Boyle, Burns, Marlowe. I don't think they'd move Pavelski, Klo, or Couture. They're younger. But I definitely think those three could be had. Maybe even Brent Burns. And even a Brad Stewart or a Doug Murray would be potentially available if San Jose gets off to a bad start, falls out of it early, and they begin the retooling in earnest. Okay, well, that leads me to the top spot in the Southwest. Stanley Cup champion LA Kings. Now, I know you might have Stanley Cup hangover and just all of the issues surrounding the lockout, the shortened season, things like that. But this team's loaded. In fact, they got even better because they just picked up Chris Stewart from the Hurricanes yesterday. He was a pretty good power forward. They're a physical team up front, and they're pretty talented. Granted, they're going to be slowed a bit because Anze Kopitar hurt his knee. He's going to be out for a little bit, so they could start a little slow. But the only reason they finished 8th was they had all kinds of offensive trouble most of last year. That went away when they got Jeff Carter from the Columbus Blue Jackets. And they're returning basically the same team, but now they're going to have a full season together. So even without Kopitar, you still got Dustin Brown, Mike Richards, and Jeff Carter. 3 pretty consistent offensive players. Also got Dustin Penner, who's inconsistent. I mean, he had a terrible season last year, but he had a fantastic playoff. Well, he puts up a decent season. That'll offset some loss of Kopitar. And hell, in your bottom 6, you've got Simone Gagne, who, when healthy, is a 40-goal scorer. I mean, honestly, up front, this team is pretty loaded. Hell, you got Jared Stoll as your third-line center. He's a pretty good... He's a guy who can play your second-line center for a bit, if need be. But you don't even need him to, because they're using Jeff Carter on the wing. He's a natural centerman. So what they're probably going to do is make Richards number 1, Carter number 2, like they were in Philly. I seriously hope Paul Holmgren got a cup ring from them, because, man, he did just as much to build this team as Dean Lombardi did. Granted, he was working for the Philadelphia Flyers at the time, but, that's neither here nor there. Then you'll go to the blue line. As a whole, that blue line it's good. But they do have Drew Doughty, who, when he is on, is a genuinely terrifying player. He is a Norris Trophy caliber defenseman. And he does it all. You know, he can score, he can hit, he can defend. Short of putting on the pads and tending goal, he can do it. But I think the group they've got behind him is solid. You know, Rob Scuderi is a good defender. He's not going to give you a lot on offense, but he knows how to handle his own end. Same with Willie Mitchell. I think you've got a pretty solid defense. And you know what? Whenever that defense screws up, you got Jonathan Quick back there. You know, finalist for the Vezina. Many good arguments that he should have beaten out Henrik Lundqvist. But, you know, the tiebreaker was handsomeness, and, yeah, no one's beaten Lundqvist on that. Not even Gabe, but, oh, God, that man is good looking. And he's my goalie. But did win the Conn Smythe last year, deservedly so. So you do have you have a very solid defensive team, especially coached by Darryl Sutter. You know, they're going to be very defensive minded, but they can score, and they have, you know, the Kings have it all. I mean, like I said, maybe you can upgrade that defense a little bit, but I think they're very solid. Thinking about it, they really do have one of the better forward groups on the planet. You know, maybe no really dominant world-beating guys, but they're deep. Again, when healthy, some of that's gonna come down to how healthy is Simon Gagne gonna be. If he can play a good stretch of the season, this team could be very scary good. And up front with Kopitar, Richards, like I said, this team's so good they've got Jeff Carter playing the wing when he's a natural centerman. You know, he'd be the number one center on a lot of teams. He's probably going to be on the second line playing left wing. Yeah, they've got kind of an embarrassment of riches up front. But yeah, they're going to be a very tough, physical team. You're very hard to score on. And they're going to be able to score on you. They're definitely... The odds of them repeating, I think, are pretty damn good. So yeah, I'm going to have them... I have them winning the Southwest, probably by a comfortable margin. Alright, well, it's Kyle Huckins for Hucks on Pucks, and yeah, we'll do the Northeast next time.